Welcome to Cut the Crop, keeping you in the know about everything you grow. Researchers, growers and other interesting folk delivering insights and information on topics ranging from agronomy to profitability. Brought to you by the Foundation for Arable Research.
Hello and welcome to Cut the Crop. I'm your host Anna Heslop, and today I'm talking to farm cereal researcher Jo Drummond about that age-old links between cereal yields, nitrogen and profit. So let's start off with the big question, Jo. Is it possible to reduce nitrogen applications and maintain productivity?
Hi, and thanks, Anna. Short answer? Well, it's not really a short answer. It's actually around improving the efficiency of your system. And if you're going to do that, you either need to reduce the amount that you put on, or you need to make what you put on more efficient. And it's really important to note that just because your system might be high producing, it doesn't necessarily mean that your system isn't efficient. And the real key here is making sure that we maintain our profit. And there are a number of things that we can do to look at this. And I've actually got some examples to go through today. And that links back to a nitrogen milling wheat trial that we did in 2019 and 20 season. And that's where we looked at different nitrogen programs across irrigated and dryland milling wheat using two different cultivars. So we were using Griffin as our premium and Discovery as our medium grade varieties. And what we found using these programs, we found that about 300 to 350 kilos of N total, so that includes what's in the soil, was optimal for a irrigated milling wheat, regardless of your cultivar. And in that dryland side, sort of 200 to 250 was going to be what got you the sort of maxed out your yield and gave you the greatest profitability.
Okay, I was just going to check on that because you said was optimal. So what does optimal mean?
So optimal means you're finding the greatest balance between our yield and between our profitability. And if we think about how where we need to go going forward, yield is important, profitability is the most important, but we also need to factor in the environment and our impact on the environment into that. So it becomes a bit of a three-way type of mix.
So pumping on more N might push up your yields, but it might cost you more for the added nitrogen than you're actually going to earn for that extra.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And that's particularly important given the price rises we've seen in urea recently.
Okay, so you were talking about some trial work that was done a couple of years ago?
Yep.
So what sorts of results did you get on there from the money? Tell us about the money.
Okay, so if we cast our mind back to when that trial was conducted in 2019 to 20, that was a really high yielding season as well. So that's something else you have to factor in. You have to know what your average is and plan your budget sort of so that it's realistic. Back when we conducted that trial, the price of nitrogen, so if we're using urea, and we were using urea in this instance, back when we did this trial, it was about, $1.34 per kilo of N or thereabouts. And if we cast our mind to the recent price increases, and we're talking about urea rather than a urease inhibitor product, that's now gone up to about $1.83 per kilogram of N. So it's quite a jump, and that's actually going to make a difference to how much the program is going to cost you. So for those particular programs we ran in that trial, if you were at the sort of 200 kilo of N per hectare, that was going to cost you an additional $67 if you were to do exactly the same thing today. And if you were to go to the top end, that was going to cost you about another $190. And that has an impact on your margin over nitrogen cost and the amount of profitability you get out. And when you think about that in terms of the return on your nitrogen spend, that's going to be around about $100 to $250, depending on whether you're going at the lighter end of the program or whether you've gone for a sort of a heavier 350 type approach.
So it's probably a bit tricky trying to just listen to all those numbers. So based on this year's N price,
yes.
Have you sort of found a middle ground of what, and obviously it depends on your contract price
yes, of course.
for what you're growing. Have we worked out some kind of happy medium?
I think so. And one of the things we have to think about is maybe we have to accept that we're not maybe going to get it quite as much as what we were getting, but our system is going to be just as profitable. So if we think about our irrigated data, when we looked at the data from 2019-20, we were looking at 350 to 300.
Kgs of N.
Total. So you have to remember what's in your soil as well.
Yeah.
When we re-looked at the data with the new prices, that 300 mark was looking like it was going to be 300 total was looking like where we needed to be in that irrigated space. And in the dry land, if we cast our mind back to that year, we were a bit water stressed, so our yields were limited. And in that instance, 200 kilos of N was going to give us the greatest profitability. So again, it gives you some opportunities to think about the subsequent season, but also if you start thinking about using the tools that are becoming available, things like the quick nitrate test and things like the hot water extractable N test, along with your soil testing, so having a really good idea of what you're starting with, it gives you some opportunities not just to look retrospectively at things like nitrogen use efficiency, but actually use the tools to help you make decisions as you go through the season. Another way to think about it is actually in terms of yield itself. So if we think that it's going to cost us up to an extra $200, that's associated with about half a tonne of yield. So that's another way to think about it. Am I getting bang for my buck with this extra? And again, it depends on your system, it depends on your soil type, it depends on the season, it depends on how much you've had in the soil to start with. All of those things come into play, but it gives you the opportunity to have a good look, use the tools that you've got, and then make the decision.
So obviously the season does make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a bit soon this year to make any guesstimates?
A little bit, but what will have really helped will have been that by now you will have done your soil test, so you'll know what's going to be available through that season. So you'll have some idea of where you're starting. I think the trick will be as you're coming towards your side dressing decisions, that's where you can use things like the quick nitrate test. And I should point out that it does only measure nitrate. It doesn't measure ammonium. So if you've got a lot of ammonium in your system, and we sometimes see that when we're under water stress, that's something you need to factor into consideration. There is a quick ammonium test available, and we are trying to validate that for cereal crops at the moment. But I think the real key thing is, if in doubt, test and test again.
So tell us again about that quick N test. It's a DIY test, is that right?
It's quite a simple test to do. You can buy the kits. They're available. You can have a look on our website. There is a link to where you can get them. I think the kits cost around $185 or thereabouts, and it comes with everything that you need. And it comes with a vial of testing strips, and you can do many tests with each vial. In fact, you could even go on with your neighbours and share them because there are that many tests to do. And it comes with a scale. Alternatively, there is an app that you can download, which is free, but it comes with a card that costs $80, and that does it for you sort of electronically. But you can use that test. Again, it costs about maybe $2-3 to do each one of those tests, and it has a really good correlation with the AMN test that you get from your lab.
Yeah. So how do you actually do the test? What's involved?
Well, you need to do a bit of digging to start with. Make sure that you get a really good representative sample from across your paddock area. Make sure you sample to the correct depth. So if you're only doing a really shallow sample, it might not show you what's actually there. It's pretty simple. It talks you through the instructions. You put a little bit of soil in the test tube and you top it up with calcium chloride solution, which comes ready-made for you, so you don't have to worry about it. Make sure you use spring water and not tap water. Then you give it a shake, leave it for about 20 minutes, dip your stick in, give it a flick. After about a minute, you'll start to see some colour changes on on the test strip, and then you can have a look on your scale and see where you sit. And then after that, there's a little bit of maths to do, but it's not very threatening. I have a 9-year-old daughter and she can do it, so I have faith in all of you.
So we're still getting quite a few calls and inquiries at work around liquid N. So are there any nitrogen products that are better or better value than others?
Or more efficient?
Or more efficient?
And the answer to that is, if you are thinking about liquid urea and you're thinking about granular urea, if you are applying those using good management practice, the efficiency of both of those products is the same. Remember, it's going on the ground. So if you get that right, regardless of your system, they are the same as each other. Now, the reasons for moving to a liquid are absolutely valid. And if you're wanting to go to wider tram lines, so you're not seeing the stripping that you get, if you're trying to spread granular food over a wider boom width, that's absolutely fine. But likewise, if you are where you are with granular and you're doing a good job of it, it's just as efficient.
So that's just doing a little bit of research and understanding why you might want to change rather than just jumping into it.
Absolutely.
Okey-doke. So any final messages for us on this?
Look, it's one of those really tricky things. Nitrogen is so important to us because in our cereals, it's really going to enhance our yield. And what it does is it gets us to that place where we're setting our yield up to get 550, 600, 650 heads per metre squared and keep our crop green enough to do its job. That's all nitrogen is going to be doing for us, and it's really important. But again, factor all the things you know about your crop, your soil, what you know about how much you've got going in and using the tools. Then you're in a place to be able to maybe either reduce how much you put on, or if you're going to carry on and know that you're in a place where the amount you put on is bang on, you're making sure that you're efficient and you're hitting your yield and you're hitting your profitability, which is the most important, and you've got the potential to reduce your environmental footprint. I think have a look in Crop Action, keep your eye out, and some of this data will be coming out in the not too distant future.
So with all the compliance around freshwater and greenhouse gas emissions, there's just an increased pressure on reducing or being more efficient with your nitrogen use. So it's good to know that it can be done without impacting on profitability. So thanks very much, Jo, and thanks very much, listeners. Have a great day on the farm.
Thanks for tuning in to Cut the Crop, presented to you by FAR. If you'd like to know more about any of the topics discussed or have any suggestions for future topics, go to www.cutthecrop.co.nz.